SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeep.
a Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure monosity. What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown,
Use my drill press as a sword of blade.
our host Neil Simpson,
If one light goes out, they all go out.
filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
That was excellent. I don't know if we're actually visually on or not. Savage.
They can hear us. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now? You know what? The audio production of this is fantastic. And the Savage, what? Davy Cam.
Maybe. I see there's a green box now.
Oh. It wouldn't go perfect without me.
Job security, Jeffrey.
Oh.
Job security.
Disembodied voices. Live now, FX. I don't know.
Help us out,
Davy
Jeff.
Cam.
I hear voices.
Oh, no, that was not good. I double-click things.
Uh-oh.
I was ready with the audio production. I felt
Because you
prepared.
bragged.
I was
got a
so
big
ready,
head.
and I feel like Jeff says he's totally laughing in his cone of shame.
Yes, as you should.
I just, you know what? We had started appropriately. This is better than muted. Oh, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however, you are joining us. You know what? Jeff is not here. If you did not
If you
know
can't
that,
tell.
and I, as Neil with
Are you
SFJ4x4.com, am desperately trying to figure out how to turn Savage's.
If you suddenly can't hear us
camera
because
on.
Neil is clicking all the buttons.
No, I have turned on the eyeball with the X through it, and remote consultation, he says. Jeffrey is trying to talk us through.
See, Davey, this is why you need to sit where Jeff does.
I think Savage did something to.
We're trying to plug and unplug and plug it back in.
Just do
The
a
way
hard
of our
reset,
generation. If it
right?
doesn't work,
Tell Davey to check the plugs.
that's literally what he's doing.
Savage
Jeff.
is currently checking the plugs. This is not an audio or laptop production issue. This is a 100% Savage issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that went entirely too well, folks. I purposely
Uh-oh.
had practiced my muting and unmuting prior to what is. Why is there a goat in the studio? People listening at home,
we apologize.
we apologize. I mean, fortunately for you, we're not that pleasing to look at anyway.
Yeah,
So
it's fine.
you're only missing out on
Half the experience.
Half the experience.
Yeah, we can talk your leg
for
off.
folks who are for folks who are listening in your ear holes on your commute or in your workplace, man, we tremendously appreciate your support, and we will do our darndest to continue to be descriptive,
Yeah.
and convey and communicate our
And
storylines.
for those on
appropriately.
Facebook, this is what it sounds like on the normal.
Yeah, this is just normal for podcasting, right? I talk to people all the time about podcasting and the success of this, and of course that's a huge tribute to all of our listeners and followers. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I talk to people about podcasting, and they're like, so wait a second, you just listen to it? I'm like, yeah, it's like a radio program. Well, I mean, I loved radio programs growing up.
Yep.
Sir, who are you?
Are you sure we're at that point?
I think we're reasonably at that point.
I'm the mad scientist, Scott Brown. And I
Yes,
feel like
sir.
we need to introduce Jeff, even though he's not here.
Yeah, Jeff, the Cone of Shame, the Italian Stallion,
Yes. At
the
home.
producer at home, and he recently had a procedure done on his neck, his back. They put an artificial disc
Craziness.
in his spine or
Craziness.
something. I don't know. That's amazing.
He was so laid back about it. I was like, yeah, I want to know you're still alive afterwards. So
Yeah, yeah. And fortunately, for all of our viewers at home, last week the Savage did quickly while we were live put
Yes.
together a picture of the Italian Stallion
in his cone of shame.
in his cone of shame.
Yes,
So if you
As he
didn't
should.
see that, you'll want to go back to our Facebook and check that
It's
out.
totally
because
worth it.
it's A, it's totally worth it. B, that photo, other than the actual animal cone, the dog cone.
yeah, that's all Jeff.
That is 100% authentically Jeff.
Yes.
Right? So the
He's
arms
feeling it.
crossed, the dance moves, the
Yes.
smirk on his face.
That's where the Scott and him similarities stop.
Oh my goodness.
Scott would be sitting at a table talking to someone
That's
in that
true.
situation.
That's true. The Italian Stallion is out living life to the
Yes.
fullest.
breaking a
Breaking a move. Breaking a move, right?
Scott doesn't do that.
So we have gotten some picture updates from Jeffrey, and I can tell you that realistically speaking, his
He's-
cone of shame.
He's kind of impersonating like a 18th, 17th century person with that big fluffy collar.
Oh, where they used to
Yeah.
wear like the neck stretcher
Yes.
things to
Yes.
to make them look. Yeah, he has that soft collar on.
Yes.
It actually doesn't look that far off from the cone of shame though.
No.
So he's got
And
a big
now it's
incident.
time
Oh,
for our
now
product
it's time for our product spotlight.
Davey, what are you
What
doing,
are you
Davey?
doing,
There's
Savage?
still no video, but we've got lots of other things going on.
This is like a sound effects studio going on back here.
If you ever needed more reason why we need Jeff here.
He does such a good job producing, and
Tell Jeffrey is showing up in the EOS webcam utility app.
so for all of our listeners out there, Savage would like me to communicate directly to Jeffrey that it is showing up in the webcam EOS app. And that appears to be part of our issue right now. So everybody at home gets to
Yeah.
understand
It's fine.
the technical difficulties.
Hey, Savage, why don't you message
Savage,
Jeff
why don't you
directly?
actually call or message Jeffrey, and we'll continue the program as we normally would.
Craziness.
Oh my goodness, I'm dying.
Well,
here.
so what we learned today is that without Jeff, Davey's kind of not worth having here because I don't need
Oh!
a camera.
Oh dear, no, Savage is always worth it. Savage is worth it, 100%.
We believe in you, Savage.
Oh goodness. Oh, now something is.
Why is he calling us?
Davey is calling the program. This
Uh-huh.
is just going from.
That's fine.
It's fine. It's okay. Everything's okay.
So let's do our normal updates.
Yes.
I know you had some stuff going on. I had some stuff going on. So
Try turning it off again and on again from Tony. Now, it's important to know, folks, that
we did
Tony
try that.
is actually an IT expert.
Yes.
Thank you for weighing in, Tony. He's also one of the main organizers of Bantam Jeep Heritage Festival. So
I love that an IT person just told us to
just
unplug it, pull it back
turn
on.
it off and turn it back on again.
You
know what? It's okay. Everything's okay. There's really nothing to look at
audio
here.
is the most
The
important.
comments are on fire. So, so folks who are involved, you definitely want to get in the comment section, and you can enjoy. Jeff is in there swinging. Roy, good morning, Roy. Yes, thank you, Jeffrey. No video. Morning, Chip. A big shout out to Chip and Aaron. They were in over the weekend, and
that pie.
they made just
The best pie.
spectacular apple pie. The crust was unbelievable. So thank you.
No-
Thank you for Chip and Aaron for that.
Not just that. They gave me a surprise.
Uh-oh.
Speaking of,
Surprise.
I'm going to sneak off camera for a second.
I'm just going to be here by myself, which is really not that unusual as we work through some of these technical difficulties. I am going to take a moment and say that I am wearing a lovely orange shirt, and this
Nobody
is very
cares.
intentional. No, I am. I'm wearing an orange shirt. I actually had it on last week as well. I think it was like last Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't recall exactly. I did wash it. I know, big deal. But I'm wearing it again August 8th. is supported by us for one of our customers. As I talk about our fantastic, absolutely fantastic followers and listeners and Jeep family, the idea that we can continue to support you just as you support us. And so I'm wearing my orange shirt again for the idea that of Bob Day. So Bob Day being 8/08, so August 8th. And this is actually in memoriam and in support of Carol and her daughter. And her daughter passed some years ago, but because of her favorite color being orange, and a kind of a sentimental and significance of 808, we celebrate Bob Day. So Bob being 8, if you look at the 8 and the 0 and the 8, make it Bob Day, 808. And so I decided, since it was, I believe today is August 12th,
Yep.
I went ahead and wore orange again, close enough, because I did want to continue to celebrate.
We do our stuff, we don't have to conform to norms.
That's right. That's right. We don't have to conform to norms. It's the 12th. I'm still going to celebrate Bob Day, and celebrate this little girl's life and the support of all the people who are dealing with grief in these types of processes.
100%.
So,
And that is a grief that does not go away.
yes.
Just slightly gets easier for others to not realize you're going through grief.
Totally. So,
We're always thinking of her. She's such a good customer, such a good person.
yes.
We have been blessed so much to have such genuine, good customers in this business.
Yes.
It really is.
Yeah, it's how realistically, customers become family. So,
Yes.
super important time of year for her, and then obviously for us, we want to support you in that process. So a couple fun Jeep family updates, if you will, fun or at least appropriate,
Yes.
honorable.
Yep.
With that said, what did you get yourself into this weekend?
So I decided to actually try to get those boards or floor supports or whatever you want to call it actually permanently installed. I talked about a little bit of fitting them up last week, but I actually had to put gaskets between that and the floor, and in true 1930s fashion, it is cork. So you put a cork gasket between the floor and the wood so that obviously that holds moisture and helps it rot out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meh. They were still there, so I'm whatever. It was fine in 80 years. It also, I'm sure, helps reduce squeaks. And for those that don't know, I have cork for almost the entirety of the frame that I have to make sure doesn't move as I put the body on. That'll be entertaining.
So
lots of masking tape.
Are you
or
gonna?
glue
I
or
was gonna say, are you gonna write stuff it? We use write stuff.
I might have to write stuff it,
Huh.
but it did, of course, come in true old man fashion with no holes in there. So you have to fit them all, figure out where you want them, and then you're supposed to just get your hole punch out, because every person working on a 30s Ford has one of those.
Of course.
Luckily, I have been recipient of lots of hand-me-down tools, so I dug through them long enough that I found a 3/4
Hole
hole
punch.
punch, because my go-to was out of town. Is in Columbus when I would actually try to do this. I need to borrow one of those.
But borrow that tool, and they're out of town.
So
Real quick, Joe Harper says rebooting does fix 80% of most issues. 26 years in IT, and additionally, I believe he comments somewhere, we've never looked so good, and it's important to remind
Thank
everybody
you.
listening.
we're definitely not going to break the camera today.
We're definitely not breaking the camera. We are, however, going to take a brief break and see if we can reboot Streamlabs, which is what everybody is requesting. So give us 1 second, and we'll be right back. And we're back!
We
Yay!
unplug and plug it back in, and it works.
Unplug and plug it back in, all of you IT experts out there.
Why didn't we do
Those
that
of you who
before?
are listening at home, not only can we fix Jeeps on the fly, clearly with your community support, we can also show you
Diagnose.
diagnose and fix our streaming platform appropriately. Now you get to see those of you who are viewing at home. You get to see our ugly mugs live.
Yes, and we
Uh,
apologize.
Yeah, sort of, sort of. So, let's see. Are we gonna get faces made for radio? says
That's right.
says Tony, and of course Chip says, "Hey, we're there! Yay, good job! All right." So there's some of our comments coming in. We're actually doing a thing. That's excellent.
Yep. So
That is excellent.
So I worked on the car, and then the other fun thing is we just went on a little discovery back roads in a open top Jeep, doorless Jeep. Just kind of enjoying the weather and the temperature and that stuff in my wife's CJ7, and exploring back roads, looking at trees, finding parks, walking around, walking through creeks, seeing waterfalls.
That's awesome.
We had a great time doing that, and got some garbage out of the creek by the waterfall as well. Got that properly.
Was there
dealt
an
with.
organized creek cleanup then, or
Nope,
was it just you guys?
Just Browns doing brown things.
That's awesome.
Just accidentally going and doing stuff.
You know what? Well, first of all, that is your guys' MO,
Yeah.
right? Secondly, I think that's one of the things, because if you have managed to hold on through all of the technical difficulties that we've had to this point, the iSpeak Jeep is not just about technical Jeep know-how. It is about living the Jeep lifestyle,
Yep.
right? And oftentimes that does elevate us to these pursuits of being stewards of the land,
Mhm.
right?
Make it better than when you went to it.
Yes, absolutely. You know, and trying to do some leave no trace or to do some trail cleanup,
Yep.
and give back to the places, the spaces, the people
Yep.
who have come before us. You
Yep.
know, and try to make it as good as we possibly can.
I guess the other thing I could bring up is we also, end of last week, we went and purchased a willow tree and planted that into our yard. I'm blessed with a lot of mature trees up around the house, which amazingly help you, not have a lot of AC bills because they shade the house and they break
Sure.
the wind in the winter, and it's not that bad, the heat. And I have a field out behind my house, acre plot that is barren, open, and I want some more shade. So
Yeah.
we went and we got about a 4.5 to 5 year old willow tree, which is just a little bit taller than me. And we had no idea what we're doing. We're just digging a hole, asking advice. Simpson extended family is weighing in on Messenger. We're going over to the neighbor's house and like snooping on how, because he's a great gardener, how he did. And ironically, he had just planted willow trees.
Really?
So we're like over there like snooping, like, oh, well, he has these posts and there's this chicken wire going around it. So maybe we should do that. And so we did all that, and we've been watering it and that kind of stuff. So it seems to be doing good. And then we got compelled on our CJ7 drive. We've been, it's just like when you buy a Jeep and suddenly you see all the Jeeps on the road.
Right.
We've been spotting willow trees for like the 5 miles coming up. Like, hey, look, there's a willow tree over there. And there's one over there. Look how
Are your
big
kids
they are.
doing this with you as well?
It's more just me and my wife. But,
Okay.
they're along for the ride.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
used to it at this
yeah.
point.
No doubt.
So we're going along this back road, and we're like, hey, look, there's a willow tree like right there, and it's not on somebody's property for the first time as we've been paying attention. So I literally like lock up the brakes, put it in reverse, back up, go over and like look at the tree. And I've been excited since doing this 6 weeks that you can grow your own trees. Specifically, willows are really good for this because they have a root growth hormone or chemical or something that helps them grow roots. So I'm like, I'm gonna get a branch and
We're
we're gonna
get
try
a
this.
cut of it, a sample.
So I didn't know what I was doing. I got a pretty good size. I thought it was a small branch. When we actually watched videos last night and went to actually try to
They're
root.
talking like a 6 to
Yeah.
12-inch piece, and
So-
you're coming home with like a 6-foot branch.
Yeah, it's fine. Fit the back of the
Did
Jeep.
you really?
It fit in the back of the CJ7. So we're not talking like maybe it was 4-foot branch. But anyway, the guy we watched, they had 3 trees in his water. We have 12.
Oh gosh.
So we might have hey, don't you want a willow tree? You
we're
guys
gonna be-
might be getting a
We
willow
might be
tree.
getting a willow tree. We're doing Jeeps and willow trees here at SFJ 4x4.
I'm thinking like, well, I think I can talk Jenny, Neil's sister, into a willow tree, and probably talk Jen Lynn into a willow tree.
Right.
I'm okay. I'm just gonna let it fly.
I'm just gonna. The mad scientist, not just building Jeeps, but building
Yes.
willow tree aficionados.
Yes. So
And-
that's what we did. We
Oh, that's
living our best
awesome.
life.
And it's funny, folks, listening at home, and you heard Scott mention his 6 weeks. That's an internal term that we
Yes.
actually use frequently when we're actually talking about our our mindsets, our human experiences, the
and
way we get excited
It's
about
not
things.
a bad term. It's a growth. It's
Correct.
exploration. It's learning. It's constantly bouncing around. If you're just stuck in one thing and you're not expanding your education and your learning,
In your mindset, right?
you know,
And that's what we, yes, the thing that makes, I think, us highly unique is the fact that we have been doing Jeeps for decades,
yes,
right? Many other people that we associate with kind of ebb in and out of the Jeep or automotive world, right?
Yep.
They'll have a Jeep for a few years. Interesting enough, my dad had a great interaction, just a random bump into a human being over the weekend while we were out doing some family stuff. And saw one of the SFJ 4x4 shirts, gravitated to it,
Mhm.
started talking to my dad. And the wife, this man's wife, interjected, and they shared a couple things. Said, well, he's always been a Jeep, about her spouse. He's always been a Jeep nut,
mm-hmm.
but the fact that he doesn't have one right now. So it's been like 41 years. He's always had a Jeep, and he just doesn't have one right now.
Yeah, I remember
Which is-
those scary days.
Right. So so it's interesting because I've had a Jeep since, I don't know, 23 years. I've had a Jeep for almost consistently, regularly. I've had one, and this individual knew about Jeeps left and
Mhm.
right. That's unique, right? A lot of people will ebb and flow into having
Yeah.
a Jeep. They'll have one for a few years. Maybe they'll build it up. It'll be a big part of their life
Right.
for
They'll
5, 7, 10
experience South
years.
Pacific thing, dip their toes in a little
Yes. And then they'll move on to dirt bikes or to
Yep.
slot cars or to marching band, PTO, PTA mom and dads,
Yep.
that kind of stuff. And we encourage people because that expanded horizons does.
bit. Well, the nice thing is the
Create growth.
Jeep's a great tool for all those things you just
And
mentioned.
that's how I personally feel is that a Jeep fits into my lifestyle no matter what.
It's pretty
you know?
much.
It's a Swiss Army knife, and I
Yes.
use it accordingly.
Yep.
So for us, other than just a lot of life happening, we have not shut my wife's JL off this summer, figuratively and literally.
Yes.
We've been all over the place. We were down at a family affair this weekend, a big wedding, big mixed group of people. It was very, very interesting. It was right in the heart of Akron, more or
Oh,
less.
Okay.
And if anybody is planning any trips in or around Akron, there is a hotel called, I think it's called the Riverview or the River's Edge Sheraton. And when we talk about kind of naturalists, preserving the land and whatnot, this hotel is built that it overhangs a main rapids of this river. And so you're literally, rooms look out over this river. And it's not like a calm, nice, peaceful, serene river. It is
No,
like this
it's
charging,
Rip your face off.
rip
river.
your yeah. It is so cool. It was
Yeah.
awesome, and it had the kind of the balcony of the rock edge kind of
Complete
hangs
opposite
out.
of the river. I was,
No, absolutely. So it was really neat because it was just a really a very cool, accessible space. It made you. It was a great hotel, but it also made you feel very close to the things that the Jeep community loves. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Kind of this outdoor experience,
and that goes to show you. I mean, you're in a more
more
bigger-
developed, more urban area. Yes.
yeah, and there's still that stuff available.
Yes.
I hear people all the time. Well, I'm in the city. I can't do that. You can.
Yes.
You just have to be
And
open.
speaking of, there was an event this past weekend and out on Geneva Lake, and I hope that Geneva on the Lake, and I hope that it went well. What I thought was really cool was as we were headed to this family event, all of these Jeeps were convoying out of Cleveland, coming out to Ashtabula County, and they were, traveling as a group, as a big, big camaraderie, a big family, and it was just really neat because as a professional, I still get giddy when I see groups of Jeep people gathering and doing cool works. So I hope that event went well. I'm certain it's been growing over the years. I lamented to my wife that I was kind of wishfully. I mean, I was happy to be at the family event, but I kind of was wishing that I had the opportunity to attend, and be part of that. So maybe in the future we'll add that. I believe it was Stuff Squeaks Jeep. Was the event. I just would verify that. But it was really neat seeing all the people coming out of Cleveland going to it. So, Anywho, any other updates? I know we talked about your 36.
Yep.
Some of the family events that we had going on this weekend. We are for real going to be discussing.
We promise.
We promise, right? We had talked that we may have done it prior to the who doesn't have a side quest into growing willow trees, Tony says. And yes, Darla's confirming that it was Stuff Squeaks Jeep. So that's what I thought was the event that all these people were heading to. I just wasn't 100% sure. If you're listening, if you're one of our national, international listeners, some of this conversation oftentimes is about localized Jeep activities. And if nothing else, hopefully it motivates you to do something similar in your own community, right? Check out what some of these folks are doing on, online on the Book of Faces or on our YouTube channel that, we might be able to attend and kind of chronicle for you, and then motivate yourself. Do it in your own local community.
100%.
And I actually was exposed to somebody recently reaching out from California, and they said, hey, I saw that you guys either did or participated in X, Y, and Z event, and they were like, don't worry, we're not competition. I'm in California. And I thought to myself, that's not competition. If you thought this was a cool event,
then do it.
Then do it.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's 2 towns over, 4 towns over, or 14 states.
Give back to your local area. That's an opportunity to help your local government or benefit
community
or anyway,
and be motivated as Jeepers, not just from the platform itself.
At minimum, you can go and you can help a local establishment. You can have everybody show up at a certain restaurant, and they can make them have a good night for attendees.
Take care of the servers and the cook staff and all that kind of stuff.
And that's just you going somewhere.
Yeah, just you going choosing a place to go hang out, eat, and park your Jeeps and tell lies about all our great adventures. And yeah, absolutely, that's one of the neat things about our Jeep community.
And that if you ever come into us, we love it when people go, "Hey, I'm looking for somewhere to eat." We have lots of stuff we go tell you that's great local family-owned business. And speaking of, a couple came in, and we already talked about that we had the delicious pie they gave us, and they also made me a present, which you'll see on future, leave you hanging a little bit. But they made Neil a present.
Oh, that's right. I needed and while
they
we
were so excited for you to open this on the air.
Oh my goodness! Oh, that makes me nervous. While we were, doing our technical difficulties, and it's also valuable to note that they have done a lot of really cool stuff to support the business.
Yes.
And they have these great graphics. We've used them on a couple Jeeps. We've put them on ours. We put them on customers.
Yep.
So I'm reaching into this really nicely decorated little white bag. Of course, there it says Neil on the front of it. It is in perfect tan leopard print.
Yes.
If you know, you know, right? I'm reaching into the bag. There's a nice little tag on it. It says to Neil from Chip and Aaron. And I feel like a roll of 20s. I think is what, we got reach through the tissue paper here. Not a roll of 20s, but that's kind of the size and shape. Oh, I pull it out and kind of tied with a nice little bit of string here. This is fancy. Little roll of like cheetah print, leopard print thing going on. Whoa. Oh my God. Are these socks? They are like leopard print. They're cheetah print socks.
Yes. Complete with nails and pads on the bottom.
Paws and pads and
Love it.
oh my goodness.
Coming to a Jeep event near you.
Coming to a Jeep event near you. I will be wearing, and if you know, I like to go to all my events, even if I have to be like semi-formal and
Yes.
like have to fulfill this role as like, Neil, the Jeep expert.
Yes.
You know, I've been into Jeeps all my life.
Yes. Very serious.
very
but I have
serious.
Very flamboyant socks.
I will absolutely have some crazy socks. I always encourage you, if you see me out at an event, especially if I have pants on and whatnot. I love I've gotten pictures with a whole bunch of different characters from the community.
Yep.
Where, you know, if you know, you'll find me, and I'll definitely have some
Yes.
fun socks on.
Lots of
So-
sock selfies have happened.
Yes. So thank you, Chip and Aaron, for that. That is super fun. And you know what? Oddly enough, I couldn't tell you other than I've always just kind of enjoyed being just that little bit of a flair, if
Yes.
you will. But I always went wheeling, and when I went wheeling, I made sure to wear, because everybody's so serious when they
Yeah.
go, right?
Yep.
And ultimately, oftentimes we find ourselves having to play into that as well, or be part of that seriousness. I like to make sure to keep it just a little bit fun, a little bit unpredictable. And then it just kind of continued to build from there. And of course, how many times I've ended up wheeling barefoot or in socks, you know?
Yes.
So it's very fitting. So thank you guys for that. That's excellent. So we're really supposed to be talking about Mecum.
We are.
Right? And
We're so excited about Mecum. It was a great experience. Great to go out and see how something else in the automotive industry works.
yes.
Something we were not familiar with before this. And like we had said before, we didn't actually have Jeeps for sale ourselves, but we were there to support our customers and the Jeeps we have built. And we had two, for those that don't know, which what you doing? You got to be watching us on our social media and stuff,
Right.
and be up on this. But anyway, we had two Jeeps, 2 different days. We were showcasing 2 parts of the shop, the performance side and the vintage side. The performance side was kind of looking at the Jeep, it does not scream, hey, I'm highly modified.
Right.
And kind of to its discredit on this specific thing, because people are like, oh, it's just a Jeep Cherokee on some bigger tires. But if you actually dived in and looked underneath, that's when you started seeing what makes us us, and,
Yes.
and where Greg had spent a lot of time. For those that don't know, it has a Curry hybrid front axle where it has JK gears. So it's a high pinion 44 in a small Cherokee TJ package,
Right.
which is not easy.
Right.
It is long armed. It is it's got an 8 1/4 in the back. We did a bunch of special stuff that
Yeah, we actually re-geared that Jeep twice
Yep.
to get a deeper gear set out of it from what we originally started on, and I think it'll be valuable to talk further about the Jeep, because that's a Jeep I absolutely love.
It's the best driving XJ. ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and if you've watched our social media, our YouTube page, you'll see that I talk about it a little bit, and I've always used the phrase that Jim, the owner of that particular vehicle, really wanted like a Lamborghini,
Yes.
and instead bought a Jeep Cherokee,
Yes.
right? And
They're both red.
they're both fire engine red.
That's fine.
And there's some really fun history, and I'd like to get into that Jeep a little bit more. But to your credit, there was the Found It,
Yep.
which was a resto mod,
Yep.
which we'll talk a little bit about what a resto mod might lay into. But it was a great representation of what we do within the vintage department,
Yes.
and
And
your
how you-
craftsmanship in the process.
And to show what you can do while leaving something alone.
Right.
Original paint, original interior, just making it a better package and then a more usable package.
And we'll talk a little bit about the technical specifications on that vehicle as well. I'd like to talk a little bit about Mecum. For those folks who are, maybe unaware at home, Mecum, there's two upper echelon auto auctions in the country.
Yep.
And Barrett-Jackson and Mecum are the two players in the game.
Yes.
And they cater to higher-end car collectors
Mm-hmm.
and higher-end antiquity dealers or unique or cool car car lots and sales places.
I mean, really what they did is they said, we're going to take what every car dealer knows, and that's a car auction, and we're going to make it worth the higher end guys' time. We're going to televise it. We're going to give them some special features and experiences. We're going to have the average Joe come in and get to experience that as well. But at its core, it is still an auto auction. And for those that don't know how those work, it is still operated very much so on that idea, while making it more of a palatable. There's the word.
Yep.
Experience for people. And that's where everybody's heard about, like, well, I had this car back in the day and I was on TV and I saw it go across the auction block and it was like, $45,000. That's the auctions they are talking about.
Yes.
Are these two. And they are, some people get upset and they go, it's hurting our car community, the real, old grumpy
diehard, old grumpy guys.
But it's actually helping you. It's making more people aware of the vehicle's existence. It's helping the values of these vehicles increase. Because I'm guaranteed there was somebody that didn't think about owning this or that vehicle until they were on TV or on an airplane or in a public setting, and it pops on and they go, I remember that, and that was a good time, and I want to experience that again.
Yes.
And I really think it's far outweighs the small negatives that there is.
Sure. So Mecum Auto Auction started in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And it has obviously increased in popularity. They have like 7 or 9 different events. They travel all around the country.
Yep.
And it was actually originally in one of the flyover states. Actually, it was like Indiana or Illinois is where it originally was taken. It actually looks like it was in Illinois.
Okay. Makes sense.
Then in 2011... You know where it went? It went to Wisconsin, which is interesting because I think that most people associate Florida and Arizona as some of their largest auctions that they offer.
Yep.
And to say that they're actually headquartered out of the kind of solidly the Middle West, it's interesting, But with that said, if you can think about like a large, I don't want to say carnival atmosphere, but I mean, it is a traveling atmosphere.
Yes.
You pull in, there is nothing shy of 11 tractor trailers.
And they're legit, like all match.
They're wrapped. They're beautiful. They're clean looking.
Yeah, they're all the tractors are the same color, all the same brands.
There's
same
a lot
wheels.
of high energy. It's
Yes.
You're excited to be there. And so, you know what? I want to back it up. I want to back it up as an enthusiast, enthusiasts who then turned professionals, right? Because that's always appropriate as a part of our story. Folks who are listening at home, Scott and I, and then arguably, take it to Greg or anybody else who's distinctly involved in this business at this level, were not professional or within the professional auto community.
Yep.
Growing up.
We were
right?
just, kids that like cars, reading car magazines, watching car shows.
We were no different than anybody
Yeah.
else who is likely listening in on this, right? The idea that oftentimes when I'm consulting with somebody across the front counter or the service counter or via email or whatever, the perception we have is that oh, somehow you've just always been you've been on the professional side of the
No.
counter. And the reality is we are all the lifeblood of the business is because we're enthusiasts, first
Yes.
and foremost.
Yeah, I bring it up often because I remember what it's like to be on the other side of the counter, and I
Yes.
want you to have the experience I wanted to have when I was standing over there.
Correct. And that's what's so incredibly valuable is to still have that energy, that enthusiasm, that awe
Mm-hmm.
of the experience to say, hey, I enjoy being a Jeep owner, an
Mhm.
automotive enthusiast, and being part of this culture, right?
Yep.
This automotive culture. So as enthusiasts, and you look in on the Barrett Jacksons and the Mecums, it's very exciting. It kind of feels like it's over there, and going to your local auto auction or your dealer auction or your little used car lot, buy here, pay here car lot auction, that's more tangible, right? Everybody's got a story about their uncle Bud or grandpa or grandma who went to
Yeah.
the auto auction and bought the old car and blah 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 blah.
Yep.
This is just that next level, right? And
Yeah.
so as enthusiasts, as we pull up this unique opportunity that we had based on serendipitously both these vehicles from our customers, which were being credited largely to our craftsmanship, both being in Harrisburg, very, very cool experience. As we pull in, the parking lot's starting to fill up. It's
Mhm.
at the Pennsylvania Farm Show Complex, which is a absolutely
Amazing.
astronomical, huge facility.
And it needed to be, which we'll get to.
Right. and you're very excited, right? They've got
I couldn't believe it until I saw it, but I've seen growing up, if you're a car person, you've watched a race somewhere, and at least one of them has been a NASCAR race, and you always watch the infield fill up with RVs, and people live that life
yes.
where they got their team colors on, and they're up in the stands, and they're excited, and it's the whole experience, and they're tailgating and all that kind of stuff. There were people tailgating
At Mecum.
at Mecum.
Yeah.
There was legit full out RVs in the parking lot. They had
People had been there for a couple days.
they had their
bicycles and
grills.
grills.
Oh, yeah.
And outdoor carpet. And
Yep.
it
Everything.
was crazy.
And it
right?
was kind of like we literally parked beside one. We're like, we got to make sure that we're not encroaching onto their living
Felt
space.
like we were in their living space.
Yes.
They were trying to tailgate and live their
Yes.
best life at the Mecum show.
Yes.
And here we are,
I
like
had
kind of
no idea I was going to experience that.
no. And so it's valuable to note that obviously Mecum moves in like a week ahead of time.
Yep.
The auction actually starts. They actually start like on a Wednesday,
Yeah.
and they run Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
And-
They may even run a Sunday as well
Yeah, I'm
elsewhere.
not sure.
Not at Harrisburg, but elsewhere they might run.
And something else, looking back at it, I'm kind of like, well, why didn't you realize that? But the fact that they run 4 days solid
Yes,
from morning till evening,
yes,
that's a significant amount of cars, people. And I walked in and I saw a significant pool of cars in the staging lanes. And I'm like, our Jeeps aren't out here. Where are they?
right.
Oh, they were there.
They were there. They were there
The buildings kept going
and
and
going.
going and going
Yep.
and going. And the amount that really also impressed me was how many of these huge, we're talking double the size of our facility probably,
Oh, yeah.
easily.
Oh, easily.
And it's all air conditioned.
Yes.
Thank God.
Oh, it was so hot. It was, if you think about it, folks, it was a couple weeks ago, and it was legitimately that heat wave
Yes.
that was hammering the East Coast.
Yes.
And we were recipients of that just the same. I mean,
Yes.
and honestly, we're north of the Mason-Dixon, so we're not really built for that summer
No,
heat, you know.
no.
And we're down there in Harrisburg, and it's pushing 90s with high humidity, so it
Yes.
feels a bajillion
We're s-
degrees.
We have a joke that every time we're dealing with this, we're swimming as we're walking.
Oh,
We were
yeah.
swimming so hard.
Swimming through the air. It was so thick you could cut it with a butter knife.
Yes.
And you step outside for a hot second and
And
you're
just-
sweating, right?
yes.
The
Melting.
humidity, just fills your lungs, and it feels like you're breathing a brick.
Yep.
And the challenge was the staging lanes for the day's vehicles, and they're going to be pushed. They push through 250 250 plus vehicles across the auction block a day.
Yes.
And so we're easily selling 1,000 plus vehicles over the course of 4 days,
Easy.
and or at least running them across the carpet. And there were more vehicles that were just there as almost museum pieces that were talking points. They were engaging. There were collections there
Yes.
that were not necessarily up for sale.
Not yet.
Not yet, right?
Yes.
They're hyping them up. They're traveling them around the country, showing off these different
And we're
pieces.
talking special, rare, 1 of 1,000 kind of cars were
Yes.
there
Yes.
for that.
And it's interesting because there were so many of these vehicles that have stories, and that's the piece that I gravitate to heavily. Is that some of the history, some of the storyline, the acquisition, whether it was found, whether it was built, whether it was purposely collected, you know, the intentionality to go and acquire this piece to add it to your collection, to now say, okay, now I'm letting it go.
Yep. It was also amazing how complete collections were there, where, being an early Ford enthusiast, gravitated a little bit towards those cars. There was literally an early Ford collection that one person had owned. They all had a special sticker on the windshield to show that they were part of that collection. And this person was selling off like 10 to 12 cars out of his collection. It's just crazy to me to think I would have to sell every vehicle I own at once.
And isn't that interesting? That's what I'm saying. Some of the really unique individuals that must have been buying and selling to have stuff there.
Yeah.
It was interesting because there was motorcycles, there was Cushman scooters,
Yes.
there was the most pristine assembly of Honda
Three-wheelers.
ATVs from the 80s and 90s.
Which I bet that was a whole collection of somebody.
Somebody's whole collection.
Yeah, the ATCs.
The ATC series. And so that was there. It was interesting to note that when we showed up Thursday morning, auction was already going for toys and collectibles.
Yes, and signs.
And signs.
Which
And
is
I mean,
a
we're
whole
talking
another rabbit hole you go into.
huge gas station signs. I mean, we're
Yes.
talking, I mean, there was one sign, it was like an Exxon or a Mobil sign that had to have been every bit of 6 foot by 8 foot.
And we're talking neon,
Mhm.
lit up, a whole 9 yards. And they are bringing car money.
Yes.
Like you could, for what you're paying for this sign, you could get in something and drive it home.
Right.
It was amazing.
Right. For signs alone. And
Yeah.
so there's a whole environment happening. It's not
Yes.
just the vehicles, the way that you see them happening on Motor Trend's channel and then eventually ESPN. Because when it gets into the whole business gobbledygook of Mecum and how they showcase the auto auctions, it's important to note that Mecum has a direct relationship with Motor Trend. Motor Trend owns all of the videography and rights to the actual vehicle going across the auction block. And then eventually Motor Trend will sell portions of that back to ESPN. So depending on where you're at on the cable spectrum or the TV streaming spectrum, there's a chance that you've seen it on Motor Trend's channel or that you've actually seen it on ESPN as well.
Yep.
So really fascinating in that sense. So we show up, there's big, beautiful banners outside. We head in, park next to the tailgaters, the people who are living on site, who are excited to be part of the big Mecum tour or something. We head inside. Now, it is open to the public, which is different than, say, SEMA, right? Where SEMA is a professionals-only event. Mecum is open to the public, but it's open to the public at a price point that your average individual is typically not easily
you have to
going
really
to.
want to go.
You have to really want to go.
Yeah.
And so
I think they do it on purpose.
I think they do that on purpose. You're absolutely correct. And so you go in and there's a huge registration. They've got buttons and posters and
Mecum
pens.
socks.
Mecum socks. I know. I really wanted to buy a pair. We just ran out of time and energy for that
Yes.
one.
The heat
And
does that.
The heat really did suck it out of us.
There,
So we got
there was
there.
literally vendors on site.
There were vendors. There was collectible vendors. There
Yes.
was professional merchandise vendors. There was
Yep.
truck transport. You know, it's
Yep.
a transport vehicle vending.
Lifts.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Automotive
joked that
lifts.
that's for the guy that went and bought too many cars at the auction and then realized his garage was only such by such.
So then he
but he
goes and
has
buys the lift. over here.
12-foot ceilings.
Yes.
And they're like, we got you.
We got you. Go buy the lift. I thought it was fascinating with the guy who was selling mannequins.
Yes.
That was interesting, folks. I've
I
been
think
doing
it
a
was
lot
actually wax figurines.
of wax figurines, full size, life size wax figurines.
The crazy part is, I guess I'm just so down the rabbit hole, and I'm continually amazed at because I've just been in this for so long. That's for the guy, you went, I'll just make something up. Say you went and you bought an STP car because you
Yep.
remember that race car when you were a kid.
Yes.
But now you need Richard to stand beside it.
Yes.
That guy's got you.
That guy has a wax wax Richard.
To stand by your STP car in your collection.
And that's really interesting because you're not wrong. And we talk about some of the people who are going to Mecum, right? So many of our customers, ourselves, our community that we cater to
Mm-hmm.
are people who use our vehicles.
Yes.
We buy a Jeep to be that Swiss Army knife. We buy that Jeep for that rugged individualism that it presents to us, that if I wanted to go out there and leap this mountain,
Even
I
if you
could.
don't.
But even if you don't leap the mountain,
Yes.
right? But I'm thinking that maybe I'm going to go overlanding. I'm going to go
Yes.
expensive camping at the National Forest.
It's all about the use. Where
The use and perception.
there were so many signs on windshields going only 25 miles.
Yes. That there are people who are buying vehicles at this auction that they're going immediately onto a car hauler.
Yes.
They're coming to a garage. It's getting taken off the transport. It might run for a couple seconds just to
Yes.
hear it run.
Yep.
And then you stage it like we did when we were kids playing with Matchbox and Legos and dolls and
Yes.
all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
You stage it. And so now you have the gas station attendant wax figurine
Yes.
next to your gas station pump,
Yes.
glass bowl pump,
With
and
your huge sign.
with your huge sign
Yes.
and your staged car sitting in the one side of your garage,
Yep.
and you just leave it there.
Yep.
And that was one of the things that constant reminder that there are auto collectors, auto enthusiasts out there that is their perception. That is
Yes.
their experience.
And it's their investment. And then they, after they get done looking at their personal museum piece,
yes.
they then take it to the next big auction
And
they
let
go
it go
buy
to
a
the next
different,
person.
and they buy another one.
And they buy another one.
And that is okay. It's very different than what we think.
Correct.
But it needs to be okay, and everyone should be able to enjoy
Their touch of the
their part of it.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. I thought that was one of the most interesting things was the wax museum guy and the little figurines and whatnot. So all of that is going on. We've got a smattering of vehicles. Other than R2, which we'll talk a little bit of technical on, what was your general vibe for the types of vehicles? I mean, I was a kid in a candy box, and I know what my experience
there
was.
was something for everyone.
Oh my gosh, was there ever?
I was amazed at how just average Joe vehicles were there that I was not expecting. There was just, a 99 F-150. It was
Yes.
super clean,
Yeah.
but it was just a 99 F-150.
Yes.
There were, on the same flip side, I know a beautifully restored 37 Ford Woody, which, for those that don't know, and I apologize, I'm just going to word vomit for a minute.
Sure.
But, Woodies are the old school station wagons from the cowl back, so all the doors, the roof, the quarters, the tailgate are
Yes.
all made out of wood,
Right.
often mahogany. They usually have two different types, and the service manual or the owner's manual for a Woody, every month you were expected to get your screwdriver and you were to go around and tighten every hardware that was in wood.
Huh.
You were supposed to clean and wax and reapply varnish at certain periods.
Intervals. Yeah.
Yes, and even with all that, the wood would try to go back to the earth.
Yes.
So a Woody, right from the word go, brand new off the lot,
Was depreciating.
was depreciating and was a huge maintenance nightmare.
Yes.
So whenever you see one now, especially a full wood one, they are something to step back and take notice of. And because of that, the price for a nice original, especially original wood ones, is crazy.
Astronomical.
And
Sure.
there was a beautifully preserved / restored 37 Ford Woody there right inside. And then right next to it is a Back to the Future DeLorean. I
Yes.
mean, just the two complete sides of the thing.
Yes.
It's just, and of course, me being, you know, an 80s baby, I was like, that's what's up.
Yeah.
I got to go look at the DeLorean.
So for me, the way that I described it to folks, and I hope that folks listening to us will appreciate the kind of the visual. It was like when we were. I shouldn't even say kids. It's like now when you go into the Matchbox aisle
Yes.
of the department store.
Yes.
And obviously when we had just toy stores as kids, and those aisles would be massive with just an eclectic mix and array of vehicles. There was
Yes.
no one make or model. There's no one type of platform.
Yep.
Obviously, we do a lot of Jeep shows, and you see a lot of different unique mods to Jeeps. But here at the auction,
Everything was there.
everything. And it was next to, we had an M38 next to the DeLorean, next to a beautiful ramp truck, next
Yes.
to, a vintage 55 Bel Air, to that F-150, that's
Yep.
just clean, or a Hummer, a 2000s Hummer.
They had old semi to the point where they're called COEs,
Yep.
cab over engines,
Yes.
that were repowered on a newer chassis with a ramp back.
I wanted that so
Oh,
bad.
I
That
know.
was my
You
favorite
wouldn't
one.
have fit very well, though.
I don't care.
The
I
cabs are
will
so
hold
small.
myself up to drive that thing. It was so cool.
We had Survivor Customs that had all the original magazines laying on the seats, showing, like from 1962, where this thing's sitting on all the puffy fake cloud and that kind of stuff was there. We had a Bantam car, which those that the Jeepers that don't know, yes, they made a Bantam car, made by the same company that made the Bantam Jeep, in the same location where Bantam Heritage Festival is.
Yes.
So I made sure that Discord got a taste of that. There were so many Corvettes and
So many
and
Corvettes.
Thunderbirds.
But some of them were really cool, like older Corvettes, and
Yes.
I'm here for that. You
Yep.
know, some of the as an 80s 90s purveyor of the automotive 80-90 Corvette is still not cool to me,
No,
right? I would love to buy
actually-
one for cheap and just womp the tar out
I'm
of
gonna
it.
apologize right now, but me and Greg were having so much fun because those guys that owned like from an 82 to a 97 Corvette, they were trying to tell you why their Corvette was cool. There was pictures and details, and it was like, see this little thing on the hood?
This is why this should
This
be
is
unique.
one of 5 that
Yes.
have this little thing on the hood, and you should notice this.
Yes.
And we're like, you're trying too hard.
You're trying so hard. so here's the thing. We gotta. It was one of the things that stood out to me was the fact that they were not all high dollar.
No.
And that's one of the misnomers, because I think we all went into it thinking like, hey, these things have to be, big money jobs.
Yes.
There was 2 vehicles that had sold the day prior to us. One was a crew cab, square body, good old GM platform truck,
Mm-hmm.
2-wheel drive, dually, and it sold for like $4,500.
Yep.
I mean, it was pretty ratted out, but it was a runner, driver, and stopped. That's not bad for a square body.
At the bare bones, it is still an automotive auction.
It is still an automotive
and
auction.
there is people taking vehicles there just to sell them.
Yeah. And say, hey, I took my vehicle across a Mecum auto auction.
Yes.
And the terms are relative to that.
Yes.
Now, interestingly, as we get into the terms a little bit, I don't want to deviate from too much from the staging lines and that process, just to give you that full experience. But the terms were really unique because they seemed to be different for everybody. That you could change, like what we were getting told was that everything was kind of set in stone, and then the more that we were there on site, things were changing rapidly.
Yes.
You could add and change reserves
At a drop. of a
at a
hat.
drop of a hat.
Yeah.
Didn't really make a lot of sense to me. You could be changing stuff on the auction block
Yes.
itself. It was very
They
fluid
actually
in its
use
rules.
that to their advantage. More often than not, we saw someone their vehicles coming up on the auction block. They get them right up on the block, and there is someone working with that person as much as there's people working with the bidders. And if their reserve, I'll just make up numbers, say is $25,000, and they're at $20K, that person is like working hardcore with that seller, going, "Hey, we're right there. We're almost there. Can you push it over the button? Can you drop the reserve? It's going to make the difference." And that happened a lot.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sorry. I was just distracted, folks. I might apologize. It was so that we're on the block, right? And things are changing rapidly.
Yep.
It's kind of a chaotic, environment, right?
Yeah.
I thought was interesting was how the delivery. They had 3 or 4 auctioneers going
At minimum, and
At
they
minimum.
were rotating them in and out.
and it was just thundering, right? I mean, I actually got a headache.
Yes.
I don't know how people could be in there
8 hours.
8 hours.
No.
And it was
The
interesting.
only reason why we were in there as much as we were is because it was hurting us outside.
Yeah, because the heat was so
You would go out, get hurt.
yeah, and go back into the air
Yeah, and-
conditioning.
Yeah, go back in the air conditioning, get your ears thundered on, and then go back. And you just kept going back and forth, back and forth.
And the way it's set up, because again, what you see on TV is a little bit challenging. There's a crowd who's reasonably, you're seeing the back of their heads, and you're getting the excitement of them raising their hands and putting their hands down for the bidding and whatnot.
Mhm.
You actually have to register additionally to be a bidder
Yes.
to actually participate on that.
Yep.
And then there's a bleacher area.
That's
and-
yet more of an elevated.
It's a little elevated. And then there's actually a skybox.
Yeah.
And I think that the skybox, I mean, there was beautiful black and yellow Mecum banners
Mhm.
on that. I believe that's part of their traveling showcase, that somehow they're setting up these skyboxes, and yet you're paying primo dollars
Yes.
to be up in that space
Yes.
to bid on these vehicles going
and
across.
they had a whole area just for drinks and snacks and that kind of stuff, just for those people. They were literally carrying around little metal Mecum cups
Yes.
that was specific for that area. And there was a group of bidders that was not, they had not paid up for that echelon
Right.
level.
Right. Right. It was
And
really
we're
fascinating.
over here looking at those people going, "Oh,
Yeah. It was really fascinating to kind of be exposed to the hierarchy, the dynamics of the buying and selling of all of these vehicles.
Yep.
So if we get back to our specific vehicles in mind, right? You had started to talk a little bit about that performance Cherokee that
Mhm.
we brought to the event. So there was 2 vehicles there, the one on the performance end of things, one on the vintage side of things.
Yep.
The performance side was, I think its biggest downfall was the fact that it didn't look as phenomenally impressive
Mhm.
as it really is.
Correct."
Air lockers and long arms
Yes.
and custom
Custom
axles and
axles.
custom steering,
Yep.
PSC, hydro assist,
Yep.
and all perfectly fit in a very tight, compact little area with a rust-free Cherokee,
Yep.
heavy-duty cooling system,
Yep.
and just a pristine interior, pristine exterior,
Yes.
big, beautiful bumpers, power-to-weight ratio, which was just spot on. It was a vehicle that was meticulously cared for in its
Yes.
lifespan, built over the last decade.
Yep.
And it just didn't show well across the block.
Yes.
And I think that's a challenge with the auto auction, is because what was different with the wagon
Mhm.
that you were such a pivotal craftsman of, that customer presented a story.
Mhm.
They actually, if you watch our YouTube videos and whatnot, you'll actually see that they actually had, like, a storyline presented from when it was found, the fact
Yes.
that it was an all original piece.
They-
I mean, we had that engine rebuilt, but many of the wagons that people are buying in high demand right now have Jasper replacement engines on them.
Yep.
Ours did not, right?
Yes.
You personally built the transmission,
Yep.
went through the transfer case. We had our engine shop build the engine,
Yep.
take the original matching engine. Yes, it's fuel injected. Yes, it's Dakota Digital. Was it Dakota Digital, I believe?
Digital gas.
Digital dash. So it's all that creature comforts that we appreciate in new age vehicles.
Yep.
It was a wolf in sheep's clothing,
Yes.
right? And the individual who owned it, who brought it to the auction, presented that in a story. They had
Yes.
beautiful signage. They had little grab and go pieces. They had all the documentation laid out on the pack.
Yep.
They attributed it to a professional build, so on and so forth.
They had all the literature from that Jeep in that time frame, so they had all the brochures you would have gotten at the dealership when that was new. They went ahead and continually improved the Jeep, so it had a freshly re-chromed front bumper, which for those that don't know, those are aluminum bumpers with chrome over top. The chrome actively is constantly eating the
Right.
bumper core. So that is not an easy thing. The owner we built it for was actively looking for a replacement bumper.
Yeah, where did he get that
I
beautiful
don't know. It was
front bumper?
gorgeous.
It was gorgeous.
And he changed a little bit of the aesthetics, which I think we're all prefer the positive. He had the old cooler in the back. He had, like he said, it allowed you to go in and go like, I could take this camping. I could take this.
He
on this
played on the
fence.
nostalgia of
Yes.
my grandpa had this. My
Yes.
parents took me on a cross country trip on
Yes.
one of these. That sold that Jeep in its storytelling
Yes.
prior to going across the auction block. So we have the tale of two Jeeps that were arguably equally built out. They were
Yes.
invested heavily in with phenomenal craftsmen
Mhm.
by a professional business that was all about the marriage of form and function.
Yep. And I've seen this before. I love looking into how houses are put together and that kind of stuff. And of course, when you watch the shows where they're trying to help sell real estate, and staging a house helps sell that house.
Yes.
And that is what we really saw. We saw a Jeep that was not staged, didn't even realize that it needed to be.
Correct.
And then we had one that obviously he had been in this event before.
Yes.
I had some experience and he knew what to do. That Jeep went for a decent number, I felt,
Yes.
on the block, but did not hit reserve. And then there is a thing called
The bid
the
goes
bid goes
on,
on,
which we didn't know about either.
which I had heard before, but I had no
Yeah.
idea what that actually meant.
Right.
That means that you can go and bid on that for much longer than the amount of time it's actually on the
Like
block.
30 days from the moment that
Yeah.
it goes across the block.
And that's when that Wagoneer sold.
Yes.
And it went for $62,700,
Yes.
which just blows my mind.
Well, and you know what's funny though is that a lot of people over the course of us involvement with it have thought that it would go for that type of money and
Yes.
and have been or more sometimes
Yeah.
because we know that the Grand Wagon series from the late 80s early 90s will
Or
push 100
100,000.
plus,
Yep.
right? And so I think that full-size wagon was worth every bit of that 62.7. And I also think that the Cherokee should have brought better money than what it did on the block, and the bid went on, and it should still sell for big money for the right individual who who has the ski resort house, who wants to just have this vehicle. They don't need a Jeep that the top comes off of.
Yep.
They just need a reliable four-wheel drive that works really darn well.
Yep.
That's what this Cherokee would be perfect for, not necessarily the Jeep enthusiast who's hanging out on all the social pages and, talking about the latest and greatest color-coordinated mods, which are all very fun,
Yes.
but that's not what this Cherokee was about. It was about performance, right?
Yes.
That individual, that owner, and his wife did all the JJUSAs. They had the experience of going out and using it and camping, hotel camping and going
Yeah,
to the JJUSAs.
They built something that was, like he said, a Lamborghini, but in a Jeep, something you could go out and use to its potential and drive it home, not have to worry about breakage. all the same time with the AC on, with the radio playing. Oh, my air, I need to air down and air up. No big deal. I can do
Right.
that on the vehicle. That stuff was done.
Yes.
And that's another thing I think is a challenge. Cherokees are getting there, but people expect to build that Jeep. They expect to outfit it to their needs. This one was ready to go.
Right.
You didn't have to do anything other than
Right.
put the key in the ignition, fill it with gas, and go.
Yeah, and Cherokees have ebbed and flowed in their popular demand, right?
Yes.
And they seem to me to be in a little bit of a natural downswing, where a lot of people want to pay $1,500 for one, and then
Yeah.
just go out and throttle jockey it off of a rock.
Yep.
Whereas a few years ago, just even 5-6 years ago, they were bringing 20 to 30,000 for a clean, purpose-built.
Which every
Jeep.
vehicle deal with that. There's Wagoneers right now on marketplace for $1,500.
Absolutely.
It's just for a different use. That Jeep has been treated differently in its lifetime. So I've had people a couple times say, "Well, what's this worth?" And I was like, "Well, it could be worth the low side,
Yes.
or it could be worth the high side. It all depends on the place, the Jeep, the way it's treated, the way it's advertised. That's the difference."
Yes. You know what? Mecum was a phenomenal experience. And when we talk about where are we going to go in the future, right? So we, as individuals, I pull, I pull no strings. I'm very, very forthright with folks to say that we are on a path of learning and growth mindset. SFJ was a company that's been built out of a passion, a dream. Yes, if you've encountered us recently, we appear to be more of a put together, formidable national force in the Jeep and off-road community. But at one time, we were literally just tearing apart Jeeps in the driveway,
Yep.
selling parts online. So it's always interesting to see how people encounter us and they see us going to Las Vegas and they see us going to the Mecums and they see us building the Jeeps that we build and having the facility that we have and blah, blah, blah. And they don't understand that so frequently that has been a labor of love and sacrifice to get us moving forward. And each step we try to learn something and say, how can we, then kind of bring this back to what we do. So what does the future hold for us and Mecum or auctions in general? One of the things I always used to tell people is I used to say we don't do certain things. And one of the things was we don't sell whole vehicles. In the past few years, I recognize that the company that has been built here at SFJ 4x4 is one of integrity, one that is able to build a marriage of form and function that looks nice and yet is not hacked together, right? It's not build spec quality. And so the reality is, I think that it would be fun or interesting to build a vehicle intentionally to go across the auction block. And so I do think that maybe in the future you can look for us to take what we learned, our experience, understanding what does and doesn't work, the setup thereof, and bring a vehicle to auction for the intention to make somebody else happy with a turnkey vehicle.
Yep.
Does that deviate entirely too much from our process? I don't think so,
No.
personally. Don't look for us to do it in 6 weeks or 6 months. I promise you it won't be any time like that soon.
Yep.
And if we do something to that effect, you will very much be part of that process. We'll talk about the build online and on the podcast and so on and so forth. For this, it was about supporting our customers who have already supported us, to be there to help in the process, to answer questions about the vehicles, to support these owners in their process of letting that vehicle go potentially.
Yep.
And then also getting our own feet wet in that environment and expanding our own experience as auto enthusiasts again.
Yep.
That was just super, super cool. Was there anything else you thought you would want to add?
I think that pretty much in a nutshell, kind of covers it.
Yeah, it was definitely a different look at Mecum than what has been presented on the Motor Trend channel and on the websites and on ESPN and so on and so forth. It was really an interesting experience. It is open to the public, so if you're listening and an auto auction, a Mecum auto auction is coming to a town near you, I recommend you go. It's definitely worth the visit. Coupled with that visit, we ended up actually going and spending some time bonding with us as mechanics and friends, and so we made the best of it. It was a very cool experience. We ended up at the state capitol of Pennsylvania. We did some touring. We had a couple good meals together. It was just a lot of fun, you know? And so make sure, if you haven't checked it out on YouTube, go watch that video. Savage did a great job chronicling that experience with us. Next week, the Italian Stallion should be back. Thank
goodness.
We should have a more appropriate and traditional podcast. And then we'll be bringing some guests back on in the very near future. So we're going to get swinging back into things as we enter into the fall. I think, for the most part, we have covered our bases on Mecum. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on our social media pages. You can always email Jeffrey directly. He's still checking his email, jeffc@sfj4x4.com. Or you can hit us up on our text-only number, 440-855-2100. Text us. Let us know, did you watch the YouTube video? Did you like it? And folks, we really are trying to grow our YouTube base. We have 6,000 plus people following us on our Facebook. We have thousands of followers on Instagram. We have thousands of downloads on your favorite streaming platforms. We have 3,000 plus followers, or around 3,000 followers on YouTube. We want to grow that number. So please consider sharing, encouraging your friends to jump on, join us on our YouTube page, get involved in our vlogs, our how-to videos, and just generally getting to know about SFJ 4x4, the background, the off-road adventures, and all the very cool things that we try to include you in. Without further ado, we got work to do here at SFJ 4x4. Jeep on.
Jeep on.